The Sacramento Kings are dangerous. I think we're overlooking just how big of an acquisition DeMar DeRozan truly is. I'm going to get into why, but first, quick reminder, subscribe right here to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications. So the Kings had the second best offseason in the NBA's Western Conference, second only to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who solved their size problem with Isaiah Hartenstein and added a defensive ace in Alex Caruso to play next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. OKC is going to be a big problem in the West, but there's a lot of really good teams in the Western Conference, and the Kings said, we are not going to take this lying down. We didn't make the playoffs this last season. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again next season. Let's go add even more firepower. And they pulled off a deal to land DeMar DeRozan. This is why it's such a big deal, though. It's not just that they got DeMar DeRozan, who's a big name, who's a talented player, but it's what specifically he brings to this roster. First and foremost, he's replacing Harrison Barnes. Not to say that Harrison Barnes is the worst player or anything like that, but he did have the worst net rating of any of the Kings' main rotation players by a lot. He was starting to slow down as he got older. So you were taking a guy who was a net negative out on the floor. Yes, he had his usefulness in some moments, but you're replacing him with a much more dynamic scorer. And that's really what this Kings team is all about. It's scoring. This is a high-octane offense. They win games by putting the ball in the basket. Let's face it, with Domantas Sabonis as one of your key pieces protecting the rim, well, you're never going to be a great defensive team. He's phenomenal, but the defensive side of the ball, it's always going to be a bit more of a challenge. So the Kings are leaning in to offense. They're getting DeRozan and they're saying, we are going to blow the doors off of opponents. You're not going to be able to keep up with us in the scoring department. But it's not just the scoring, it's how they do it specifically. DeMar DeRozan actually fills a very important need for the Sacramento Kings. Most people don't realize this, but the Kings were dead last in the NBA in free throw percentage last season. Yeah, a team that shoots the three ball the way that they can, you tend to think they must be good at the free throw line. The problem is Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox were by far their highest volume free throw shooters, but both of them were not great from the line, shooting in the mid-70s. Now you add DeMar DeRozan, who averaged more free throw attempts per game than either De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis last season, and he shoots a great percentage. So for a Kings team that doesn't do a great job taking advantage of their free throw attempts when they get there, now you've got a guy who's great at manufacturing free throw attempts and knocks them down at a very high rate. That's going to bump them up from being dead last in free throw percentage. DeRozan's going to do a lot to drag them up closer to middle of the pack, and those extra points at the line each game will go a long way towards getting the Kings wins. And I love that DeRozan's strength, getting to the line and hitting a high volume of his attempts, it masks the weakness of the other stars on the team in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. That's the way you want to build teams, where your stars have complementary skill sets. And particularly on the offensive end, in that area, DeRozan's going to help Sacramento a lot. Staying on the offensive end of the floor, though, the Kings had a big problem whenever both of De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk were off the floor. In fact, that's part of the reason why their season ended so prematurely. Malik Monk got hurt. Their team completely fell to pieces when Fox and Monk were out of the game. In fact, offensively, they ranked in the 6th percentile in the NBA without Monk and Fox out there on the floor. That's putting a lot on those two guys to be the primary engines of the Kings offense. If you're going to be a team that is built all the way around your offense, you need another piece that can come in and generate buckets, and DeRozan can do that. You know that in a pinch, if Monk is out, if Fox is out, you can throw the ball to DeMar DeRozan. He can operate out of the pick and roll, where he's actually better there than I think a lot of people give him credit for, and at the least, he can get a bucket for himself. But he's a good passer as well. He can create shots for his teammates, and you can run the offense through him. So the biggest problem that the Kings faced this past season, the issue that knocked them out before they even got to the playoffs, Malik Monk getting hurt, De'Aaron Fox can't play 48 minutes every night, and the Kings offense falls to pieces whenever both those guys are off the floor. Now you've got DeMar DeRozan to turn to. Problem solved. And let's not forget percentages, stats, all that stuff aside, he's a big talent upgrade as well compared to Harrison Barnes. DeRozan is simply a better basketball player. Now you've got a team with Sabonis, with DeRozan, with Keegan Murray, who's going to have to step up. We're going to talk about him in just a moment. Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox, you've got 4 guys who on any given night are capable of dropping 25 points plus on you. That's going to be a team that can really put a scare into opponents, and defensively trying to game plan for them is going to be so tough, because if you take away 1 or 2 of those weapons, they still have 2 more that can absolutely go berserk on you. Trying to defend the Kings is not going to be easy. However, it won't be impossible. Let's not forget that the big weakness for DeMar DeRozan in today's NBA, it's three-point shooting. He is a low-volume three-point shooter, and he doesn't make very many of them when he does take those shots from downtown. For a Sacramento team that enjoyed a 5-out offense for much of last season, that will be a bit of an adjustment. DeRozan, while occasionally he can hit a 3, he's more a master of the mid-range. He's not a guy that teams fear from downtown. So there's going to have to be some restructuring a little bit in the Kings' offensive schemes. Mike Brown's going to have his hands full with that one. As talented of a scorer as DeRozan is, it's in a very different way than what we saw out of Harrison Barnes, who would camp out behind the three-point line, spot up, and try to spread out the defense. That's not how DeRozan likes to operate, so that adjustment period might mean some early bumps in the road for the Sacramento Kings. On top of that, we got to look at DeRozan's age. 35 years old in August. That's a lot of money. A 3-year contract. It's going to come in right around $75 million. That's a lot of money, a lot of years to give to a guy his age. But again, the Kings said, we're not waiting. We're not going to wait for the perfect deal to come along, because frankly, it's probably not going to. If we can get a guy this talented right now and keep up with the Western Conference, we're going to do it. And I don't blame them. It's just maybe not quite ideal to give DeMar DeRozan that many years and that much money given his age, and you know that a decline, while he's still fantastic now, it's coming sooner rather than later. But the final piece to this that is going to be so critical, it's actually Keegan Murray. You know, as much as we focus on Sabonis, on Fox, on Malik Monk, DeRozan himself, Keegan Murray is going to have to step up in a big way on the defensive side of the ball. In seasons past, it's been Harrison Barnes who can take some of the more difficult defensive challenges. We're talking about guys like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James. It's been Harrison Barnes that largely steps up and defends those guys. Now, Keegan Murray, he was starting to take on some more of those difficult challenges, defending guys like Devin Booker and Brandon Ingram, but now he's going to have to be the wing stopper for the Sacramento Kings night in, night out. Again, this team is built around offense. They want to outscore everybody, but they've got to be at least decent on the defensive end of the floor, and Keegan Murray, he's going to have to really become the guy who accepts the toughest defensive matchups night in, night out for Sacramento. So a lot of the spotlight, well, it's going to be on DeRozan, it's going to be on Fox, Sabonis, all these guys who can put up points in bunches. The true key to the Kings season, especially on the defensive end of the floor, it's going to be Keegan Murray on the wing, and then can he thrive on the offensive end with all the attention that's going to be drawn by these other guys. I'm expecting a big season out of Murray. I think DeRozan, despite some fit concerns, which frankly are going to exist wherever he goes, he fills so many holes for this Kings team. He fixes so many problems from what they had last season. I love that the Kings said, we're not missing the playoffs again. We're going for it. Now I think they're the kind of team that if they get hot on the offensive end on any given night, they can take any team down. And I can't wait to watch this team in action. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How much better did the Sacramento Kings actually get with the DeMar DeRozan edition? Don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.